Crystal Palace fans have been bracing themselves for impact this summer transfer window with Michael Olise, Eze and maybe Adam Wharton courting interest from some of the elite teams around European football. Mega money transfers have been rumoured and been in the offing, and I think all the Eagles fans have been worried that one too many end up leaving the squad this summer. And with the first domino falling, Michael Olise making his move to Bayern Munich this summer, I think it's time to come from behind the couch. I think it's all safe on the Western Front, as this will probably be, I think everyone's got their fingers crossed, the only major departure that Crystal Palace will have this summer. And now what we're going to do is have a look at the Crystal Palace squad, how it's sitting, and what is the remit, what is the objective for Oliver Glasner and the transfer department at Crystal Palace for their to-do list to get the team ready for the new Premier League season. Michael Olise has been a key figure when fit and available. That's been a real centrepiece of all the good stuff that Crystal Palace were offering towards the back end of the season. So he's going to be an absolute huge miss. What kind of player should they be looking at? Who could they actually go for? And really, what does the rest of the summer now have in store for Crystal Palace after the departure of Michael Olise? At any point in the video today, if you do laugh, you learn, you like something or whatever, please do like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this as we run through the summer transfer window, the Euros and everything else in between as we get set for what is going to be a massive 24-25 season. And get into the comment section in this one and let me know, who do you think Palace are actually going to bring in to directly replace Michael Olise? And yeah, let's just get stuck straight into it. Now, as soon as the last whistle was blown on the last game of the season, Crystal Palace had already went into the transfer market and brought in, maybe a key player in Daichi Kamada and a great, one for the future defensive reinforcement in Chadi Riyad. But like I said in the intro, everyone's been waiting with bated breath. Is it going to be Eze moving to Tottenham or something like that? Or is it Michael Olise going to Man City or eventually Bayern Munich, one of these kind of teams? And with Michael Olise leaving for Bayern Munich, I actually think this is a fantastic transfer for Crystal Palace, because if we look at the way the team is kind of constructed and we remember the style of football that Oliver Glasner has been imposing on the team, Michael Olise and Eze were both the support act into the striker. Mateta, maybe it's Edward, maybe it's Ayew, but it feels like Mateta is the man at the moment. And both of these guys are really the biggest part of what made Crystal Palace really kick into gear at the back end of the season. Eze is box-to-box, physical, powerful presence, going all over the pitch and being all things to all people, and Michael Olise being that player on the wide area that is basically the artillery, the guy that can shoot from edge of the box, the guy that can put the deliveries in, and from a dead ball situation, you can put him on top of the ball and, build the set piece however you want to, if it's a free kick or a corner. But I did say myself at my end of season review for Crystal Palace that for me, replacing Eze would be almost impossible, but replacing Michael Olise, not quite as hard. Now, replacing a guy that's just went to Bayern Munich, it's not going to be easy, of course. And one of the quotes I've heard coming from the radio and some of these sources and all the rest of it is, Palace have a player better than Olise ready to come in. But once Olise leaves this team, yeah, we've got Kamada, who should just fill this void, and I think will suit Glasner Ball really well with the kind of pressing job that he can do, as well as knowing tactically the role of what's required in here. But Kamada isn't quite the artillery piece that Michael Olise is. Yeah, he can thread a good ball, he's got an eye for a pass, he's very unselfish and that kind of thing. But with Olise, you really do get an outlet where no matter where he's positioned on the pitch, that he can switch the ball from left to right. He can find a penetrating run from the striker. He can use his teammates and support really, really well. And that is really going to change how effective Crystal Palace were at the back end of the season from turning defence into attack. I think holding on to Eze but is an absolute W. It's a really big win, because all the talks of there being like a gentleman's agreement and all this kind of stuff that he could have left in the summer, you guys were telling me in the comment section that was a whole load of baloney. And it does feel that that's the case now. It does feel that Eze is here for the remainder, or for next season coming. And, with the little bit of interest that Wharton was starting to get at the back end of the season, with him not featuring for England yet, it feels like all that kind of interest is kind of cooled. And I think with them selling Olise for 60 million, you've probably got that strength, that financial protection now to get Wharton, get Eze, and really just keep them in the club for another year and try and build upon the success that Glasner had upon his appointment earlier this year. And really, as we look at the squad as it sits now in terms of generally what positions I've got covered and the sort of different styles of players here and there, like, this team is very well rounded, and to just compete in the Premier League and maybe have an additional cup run there on top of it, I don't really think there's much business that really needs to be done. But Palace will have ambitions. They're not going to be settling for getting into the top 10, finishing, 11th, 10th, 9th or anything like that, because expectations have been lifted. And we've seen over the last 5 or 6 years some incredible success stories in the Premier League of teams coming from this obscure mediocrity position of just being safe mid-table and making a real claim, getting into European football and maybe, kind of putting the cat amongst the pigeons, as it were. So I don't actually feel that Crystal Palace have, any gaping holes in the squad, anything that they're really missing or lacking that they need to go and, get in. But what you are missing with Olise that isn't really represented here too well, like I've mentioned a few times, is that artillery piece. Now, with that quote that's kind of floating around, they're going to be signing a player better than Olise. You really need to do search far and wide to find players that could be that kind of player. But you also then need to flavour it with Palace do not have European football next season, and other clubs are going to be interested in them. One player that I thought might have been an easy one would have been for the Championship with Serencio Somerville, but it sounds like he might be on his way to Chelsea. Now, one name that's doing the rounds on the transfer rumour mill this morning is Thiago Almada, the Argentinian World Cup winning MLS hero, as it were, has been at Atlanta United for a couple of seasons, and the transfer fee that Atlanta United have been asking for has been eye-watering. That's why he's not really been leaving the MLS anytime soon. But it sounds like a deal is about to be done with the Eagle Group or whoever it is that owns Crystal Palace, Lyon and Botafogo, and it's not quite clear where he's actually going to end up. It sounds like he'll be transferred to Botafogo, but maybe on loan to Lyon, or maybe transfers to Lyon and maybe on loan to Palace. There's a few moving pieces that are yet to be decided. I'm not too sure Thiago Almada is actually ready for a move to the Premier League yet, and that's maybe why the whole Botafogo Lyon thing might be going on. It might be a stepping stone process before bringing him into Crystal Palace. But if Thiago Almada did sign for Crystal Palace, he does have the potential to be just like Michael Olise. If you go and check out this guy's highlight packages, he scores bangers, he scores worldies, he's got a great eye for a pass, he's got a beautiful delivery, and overall, like, his time in MLS, if we look at his statistical ratings here, out of 100, and I know you might think MLS isn't the best league in the world, it's certainly not the Premier League, don't get me wrong, but this guy is in a really bad team where he is like the only star in it, and he does carry the weight of that responsibility on his shoulders pretty well. He was in the Argentinian World Cup winning squad, he made one appearance, I think, in the World Cup. But this is a guy that gets goals, that gets assists. Like you can see with the bookings and stuff like that here, he's not shy about getting stuck in amongst it either and putting his body in where it hurts. But he's very much an attacking, a flair player. And you would find him very often in the same kind of pockets, the same areas of the pitch as a Michael Olise. And I do feel that in a lot of different ways, this is a move that really could be the one that, you would get a great replacement for Michael Olise, but it's a guy that is a bit untried, a bit untested at the Premier League level. The only other question mark I would have over this is his suitability into Glasner ball. Again, from what we've seen in the MLS and whatever, it's hard to imagine that he would definitely hit the ground running and he would fit like a glove into this system. So, maybe this is one that you need to wait for the January window, or maybe even next summer once he's maybe acclimatised to European football with a loan transfer to Lyon or something like that. But he's the sort of player, if that's the sort of calibre that Palace are going to be shopping for, a guy that's an established, international, or have some sort of elite kind of pedigree on the go, but they've not quite broken in to the top end of European football. If Crystal Palace are deadly serious about trying to get anyone in who would have the potential to be better than Olise, then I think they could do a lot worse than signing Antonio Nusa. The 19-year-old wonder kid has broke onto the scene at Club Brugge over the last couple of years, and although if you go and look him up and check his statistics out, he's not been setting the world on light on paper with goals and assists and that kind of thing, but he's got all the raw minerals, he's got all the technical ability, he's got that front pressing power as well as like a real high potential of like technique and awareness and all the stuff that we've seen so far. Last year he was ravaged with injury, so he never really got a good spell of games, never really got much of a rhythm going, but this is a player that would really add a different dimension back into Crystal Palace. His ability to be that artillery player is maybe yet undetermined, but to be able to play in this kind of zone here for Crystal Palace, depending on the opponent, the occasion, whatever, maybe even actually up front as the arrowhead striker, he gives high energy, high running power as well, quite similar to some other players I think I could see being profiled by Glasner in Palace. But this guy, like, you know, if the billing is someone that has got the potential to get to the level that Olise has, then Antonio Nusa would be a huge statement of intent. That would be a bit of a marquee transfer in my book. Because again, it's a guy that if he doesn't play every week, there's probably not too much pressure on. But when he does play from the bench or from the start, if he comes in and earns the jersey, as it were, could be very exciting. And, you know, pace, running power, and that kind of hunger for goal will really complement the rest of this attacking outlet here. So that's a transfer that's starting to get a little bit of momentum that could actually happen quite quickly, and I think would be an absolute W for Crystal Palace. With the whole connection with Lyon and Botafogo and everything as well, everyone's favourite perennial, about to be the next big thing wonder kid, Ryan Cherki, might be on his way in a €15 million transfer from Lyon to PSG. That's only rumours at the moment. And Cherki has never really, you know, broken through at the Lyon squad. I don't think he's quite ready for Palace or anything like that. But when I hear the phrase, they're going to be signing someone who could be better than Michael Olise, Thiago Almada definitely falls in that category. And Ryan Cherki, if there is that multi-club ownership thing on the go there, it feels like somebody like him could be the guy that would come in. But when you look at Franca, you look at Raksake, there's a few guys that are in a similar vein, a similar mould, and Cherki maybe by some accounts hasn't got the best off-pitch kind of situation or temperament or whatever. So I don't think it will be Cherki, but this is the style of guy I think Crystal Palace really should be looking at and really could be an exciting addition into the squad. From what we've seen already from Oliver Glasner by bringing in Daichi Kamada and by how, you know, without even blinking, he just adopted his own system onto the squad and has implemented it from day one. I wouldn't be one bit surprised if he went back to the Bundesliga, he went back to his old club, Frankfurt, in an effort to pick up a really high talented player, because Frankfurt, although they haven't been doing great since Glasner's Europa League win and since he's left and whatever, you know, their transfer policy, their squad construction has still been very solid, has been very elite. And if we look across the front positions in this Frankfurt team, this is the last game of the season they played against Leipzig. Asner Knauf, who plays on the left-hand side, but can play in one of these front three positions, along with Omar Marmoush and Faris Chaibe. These are three players that I think could adapt to the Premier League. I don't know if they could necessarily fill Michael Olise's boots super easy, no problem at all. But I do feel that they would add the pace, they would add that extra guile, and they operate in the same sort of pockets that we've seen Olise playing in. And again, it's not all of these guys are household names, superstars across European football. So I don't think Palace would need to worry about spending 60 million quid to replace Olise if they were to bring in a Faris Chaibe or a Omar Mamouche especially. Well, there's two players in Italy that aren't young, that aren't, you know, up-and-coming guys, that have actually got a pretty solid senior career, have made their name for themselves, have developed their game at the highest level in Serie A football and internationally as well, that are available for transfer and are going to be linked to some of the good and the great across European football. One of the first ones I think Palace would be really smart to look at is Nico Gonzalez of Fiorentina. Having them had a couple of good European runs, they're in European football again this year, but Fiorentina have just changed managers, a wee bit of transition going on over in Florence at the moment. And Nico Gonzalez is our right attacking winger with a left foot. He loves to make deliveries. And again, you just need to look at this guy's highlight reel. You'll see that he does actually offer a lot of similarities to what Olise does, without maybe being as physically as strong and imposing as Olise can be on the ball. I think Nico Gonzalez is available. The transfer fee would probably work quite well for Palace. And him coming to London to play for Crystal Palace, he'd probably see that as a great opportunity to move his career on and put himself on a bigger stage. Fiorentina do have European football this year, but I don't think Europa Conference League for another season is something that he'll feel he's missing out on by leaving Fiorentina for Crystal Palace. There's no rumours on this one yet, but it does feel that the player's available. He plays in the same position. He has a lot of similar qualities. And if, you know, Glasner and the guys there think he can adapt to the system, then he could be a great, easy pickup. And the other one is technically now in Serie B, and that is Domenico Berardi. It sounds like he's probably on his way to Juventus at this point, but this is a guy that's always stopped himself from joining one of the elite teams in Serie A. He's a Sassuolo guy, he, you know, lives and breathes it for the badge, as it were. And now that they've been relegated, it does look like he's going to be leaving. He's far too good to be playing in Serie B. Yeah, a Euro winner with Italy. And again, this is a guy that many football fans across Europe will know, because He's been the talisman. He gets goals, he gets assists, he takes corners, free kicks, penalties, does all that stuff for Sassuolo. He's been the main man for them as they've done kind of well over the last couple of years in Serie A. But with an injury he had this year, it just, all the wheels fell off and Sassuolo have crashed into relegation. It's rumoured that he's available for about 10 to 15 million euros. And again, I'm not too sure he gives you the high energy Premier League level physicality that we've definitely seen from Olise, and like we mentioned about Eze, but he offers absolutely everything else, where it's a guy that has operated at the highest level for Italy. He's been playing Serie A football for a number of years, and this is a guy that is waiting for his big break in his career, you know, something where he can go on and achieve something outside of his hometown club, as it were, and obviously make a few quid as well, because at the end of the day, these guys are all doing this for their job and they all want to get paid. And Crystal Palace in the Premier League are going to be a really attractive proposition, I think, if they were to enter into it for Domenico Berardi. What I think he would also add into Palace is because he is that, he's like a proper player in that sense. He's not a mercenary that just moves all the time for money and whatever. And he's a guy that would really add a lot of character and a lot of identity into the squad, I think, as well. So maybe what you miss out in with a little bit of, you know, maybe he's not quite as lightning quick and he's not going to be a front pressing, harassing type forward or whatever. But everything else he kind of brings, I think, would be a huge addition into the Crystal Palace squad. Because when Kamada came in, it did make the attacking complement of Crystal Palace look really deep and really well-rounded. They wouldn't be able to get all their best players in a starting 11, and that's exactly the position you want your club to be in when you're evolving and you're moving up the pecking order, as it were. But now with Olise out and Kamada in, it's back to being just like a really strong, capable Premier League outfit. So I do feel there's someone else to come into this attacking complement somewhere. It doesn't need to be walking into Olise's shoes necessarily. It is going to be top of the agenda. But the same thing can be said for midfield. I know Lerma, Doucouré, Wharton, and maybe to a lesser extent Hughes, are all quite convincing for Crystal Palace fans that they're good enough and they can be worthwhile contributors. But again, I do think Lerma has his limitations. Doucouré, we're still seeing him develop. And Hughes is like, he's hit his ceiling, he's hit his limit, you know, so you kind of know what you're getting there. So the real crown jewel of midfield here is Wharton, and getting him a proper partner that can help him kind of evolve the Crystal Palace team on over the next couple of years is probably going to be on the to-do list for Crystal Palace as well. When it comes to the wide areas, I think Mitchell and Munoz are pretty nailed on. There's good backups behind them in the likes of Klein and Schlupp, and the defence is almost just about there as well. So I think once we get to July 1st and it's a new kind of PSR accounting period and all that kind of thing, we're probably going to see Crystal Palace complete 2 more significant, you know, headline type signings. I've previewed some of the guys I think it could be coming in to the attacking position. I'll be really interested to see what you guys think in the comment section. But if you have any ideas on the engine room on midfield of who might be out there, who's maybe been linked already that I've overlooked, feel free to drop that in the comment section down below as well. On screen there now is some other stuff that I've made that YouTube thinks you might enjoy. I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more content like this. Hit the like button if you laughed or you learned, you liked something or whatever. Stay out of trouble, and I'll catch you on the next one.